This one shouldn't take much guesswork, folks. This week's enemies list is Pete Hegseth because he's a liar, he's a drunk, he's an incompetent, he's an embarrassment, he's a fool, and he wears too much hair product. I have known 7 secretaries of defense in some capacity, either well or somewhat. Worked with a couple, written for a couple more, met a bunch. Never has there been one like Pete Hegseth. And I'll tell you why he is on this week's enemies list. He is profoundly unqualified for this job. That's the fundamental. Okay, that's the understory of all of it. We're gonna rake Pete Hegseth over the coals for all the other behavioral stuff in a minute. But he's unqualified for this job. I'm unqualified for this job. 99% of the people in the world are unqualified for this job. To be the Secretary of Defense, you have to be the CEO of a global operation with almost 2.5 million men and women in the services, about another 700,000 people who are employed in civilian roles. You're in charge of the most complicated and sophisticated logistics, intelligence, human resources, all of the operational and managerial things that underpin the ability for people to go out and fight wars. Because as much as Pete Hegseth likes to beat his chest and show off his Deus Vult tattoo, the tooth has to have a tail. He has no idea what he's doing. None whatsoever. That's one of the problems. He's unqualified, he's incompetent, he's not smart. He's a TV host. God love TV hosts, but they vary on the intelligence curve, and Pete Hegseth is on the left side of that curve near the bottom. The other reason he's unqualified was on full display this week. And again, we're going to get to the lying, we're going to get to the story. But the reason Pete Hegseth is on the enemies list this week is that he has attempted to use the men and women who flew these dangerous combat missions as human shields. They didn't accomplish what they thought they were going to accomplish, and we all know it by now. Iran's nuclear program was not, quote unquote, completely obliterated. So he's been dishonest all week about it. He's been explaining it over and over again. He's been lying about it over and over again, and so is Trump, obviously. But Trump's lies are just like he breathes. They're a biological function of his crapulous existence. But Hegseth has spent the week lying. Has any Secretary of Defense in the past told a lie? Absolutely. But most of the time, at least from my experience, from what I've seen, those are lies of omission to protect operational security or protect the men and women in uniform who are involved in some dangerous activity. Have there been lies told by Secretaries of Defense? You bet. But none so blatant as Pete Hegseth. And this is a job that requires both moral and personal leadership. What do you think the response of that second lieutenant out there in the field is when he knows the Secretary of Defense is lying his ass off? What do you think the response, what do you think the behavior that gets modeled when you see that if you're a young enlisted troop? It's okay. Lie. Bullshit. Don't uphold your oath and your honor. Deceive people. What could go wrong? I'll tell you what can go wrong. This giant complicated operation that is the United States Department of Defense and all of our magnificent fighting forces in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. I wish the Coast Guard was still in the DOD. It does not belong in DHS. That's an aside. We'll talk about that another time. All of it requires men and women who trust one another to do the right thing, to be where they're supposed to be, to conduct themselves as they're supposed to conduct themselves, to show up, to be time on target, to give a shit, to care for the men and women under their command and the men and women who serve side by side with them from the other branches and other parts of their own branches. What you see Hegseth doing is telling them, that's okay. The lies are fine. We're lying for Trump. If these men and women can't trust one another, if they believe that leadership now has become in the Pentagon a competition for who can get away with lying the most, the longest, the effectiveness and the power and frankly, the moral standing of our military will collapse. Now, Trump would not mind that because he's already appointed several political generals who are his pets. Raising Cain! I'm sorry, Donald. If you're gay, just come out, dude. Stop it. He's already done a lot of these things. Hegseth's already done a lot of these things that have diminished the role of the Secretary of Defense, that have diminished the honor of that office. I assure you, just as all these foreign leaders have learned to play Trump's ego, defense ministers in other countries are looking at Pete Hegseth and going, this guy, this clown, this tool, this mook, and they're playing his ego too. Nothing about Pete Hegseth is honorable. We know this from his behavior. He has stolen money from organizations he worked for over and over again. He's train wrecked these nonprofits he's worked for. He has been involved in settling sexual assault suits so that he can get this nomination. He has been far less than candid when he was applying for this job than any other candidate I've ever seen. Look, I was involved in the John Tower nomination. Young guy, support staffer at the time, the transition office from the campaign to the White House to the DOD. And when Dick Cheney came in, he was an open book for everybody. Love him or hate him, he wasn't hiding things. John Tower had sort of tried to hide that he was a heavy drinker and a partier. At the time, that was a disqualifier, by the way. John Tower, there were a couple of incidents in John Tower's record in 1988 where he was a heavy drinker. He's a wee little fella, Texas guy. I met him, he's probably like 5'3", tiny. But Hegseth was not truthful. He's not truthful to the American people. He spent today, and I'm recording this on Thursday, he spent today embarrassing himself and the country by going out and making up a complete lie, not about the effectiveness of the Fort bombing campaign, which is a set of lies he's been telling at scale all week because he doesn't want to lose his job. He went out and told a lie so egregious and so weird that I've put it in what I call the catalog of imaginary demons. What is the catalog of imaginary demons, you ask? Well, first off, you can look it up on my Substack. I've got a couple of chapters in there so far. But the catalog of imaginary demons is what MAGA voters believe is happening in the world. A is for Antifa. This catalog of imaginary demons always has to have it's a war on Christmas. It's Antifa. It's George Soros. It's QAnon. Their latest catalog entry is people are attacking the troops. And so Hegseth went out there today. When you saw him doing this performance, and it was a performance for Donald Trump's behalf, screaming, yelling at people, attacking the media, saying, you're not nice. You're attacking our troops, our men and women, these airmen, these bold airmen.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours?
No one's doing that. No one. Zero. None. It's not happening. Show me an elected official or a major media person who is attacking the men and women who flew those missions, and I'll throw $500 at your favorite charity right now. Or more. Because it's not happening. It's bullshit. It's a lie. You're seeing that Pete Hegseth is up there on that podium. And he's on the enemies list well before this because he's bad at this job. He's a danger to our national security and the men and women who put their lives on the line every day. He's a danger to this country's standing in the world. He's a danger to our relationships with other countries. But when he stands up there and yells, tells reporters, you have to write your story like this or you're not a patriot, you're hateful. And he's not emotionally competent to have this job. He's not mentally competent to have this job. He's a dangerous and shitty person. Pete Hegseth is on the enemies list this week for a very good reason. And that is because Pete Hegseth, for all that he wants to yell and lecture people about how much that they're attacking the troops, he's failing them in a way that is so far beyond any imaginary attack, so far beyond any imaginary criticism. He's failing them in a way that will make them less than what they should and can and must be for this country. And that's why Pete Hegseth is on the enemies list this week and kind of permanently. You can catch me on the Lincoln Square Network twice a week on streaming shows. On Tuesdays, we have the strategy session. On Thursdays, we have the breakdown. You can also catch my personal Substack at the Rick Wilson. You can catch me once or twice a week over on Lincoln Square also. And if you are interested and curious, go ahead and follow my various socials, all at the Rick Wilson, including YouTube. Like and subscribe, folks. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.